Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Robert Marx, a retired professor of the University of Miami School of Medicine. This is a YouTube presentation on climate change, the hoax of CO2. This will be a preamble to what you're going to view over approximately 10 different segments. This is based on Climate Change, a Hoax of CO2 Revealed, my latest book on how climate change really occurs, and that CO2 has really nothing to do with climate change. The book will tell you that climate change is real. It's advancing slowly at the rate of 1 degree Fahrenheit per century, different from what your politicians are telling you, and that the sea level rise is not due to melting of glaciers. Now, that may be in confrontation with what you're hearing, but stick with this, and I think you will find some interesting data. Now, this is how you can order my book. I would please if you would. And then as we start this, I will show you that there is my uh, email address and my phone number, as well as the publisher. We're open for questions and challenges. So this is all really transparent, things that politicians talk about, but very rarely do. Okay, this is the glacier during the last ice age. 30% of the globe was covered to the Illinois-Wisconsin border was the end of the glacier. So it encompassed all of Canada, all of the northern tiers of the United States, and the equal latitudes in Europe and in Asia. Notice the Panama Canal was wide open, and the warm water from the Caribbean basin and the Pacific Ocean could mix. It never got up north. However, 60,000 years ago, it changed. The Panama Isthmus developed due to tectonic plate movement and due to volcanic action. If you ever go to the Central America, you will see the remnants of a lot of volcanic action. It actually separated the Atlantic from the Pacific and therefore created the Gulf Stream, which brings the warm equatorial Caribbean basin water up north. And that never happened in any other ice age than the last one. Now, when that melted, it left Lake McConnell. Once again, every geologist knows about Lake McConnell. The melt of that big glacier, all of Canada, east of the Rockies, and all the way, including Hudson Bay, was a big lake. And it persisted till about 8,000 years ago, and then it started draining. And it drained into the Atlantic, and it drained into the Pacific, and the sea levels rose due to that. Now, it did leave residual lakes, including our 5 Great Lakes. Those are nothing more than puddles left from the last ice age. And there's other lakes that I'm showing that are really big. I've been to most every one of them, including our 5 Great Lakes and Hudson Bay. Now, Hudson Bay is noted to have decreased their shoreline by 100 feet in the last 100 years. So where did the water go? It went into the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. Now, this is my own picture, this Lake Athabasca in northern territories of Canada. If you could look at there's a line, and then there's some dark granite there. The top line, white, was the level of Lake McConnell 8,000 years ago. That current lake at normal lake levels is when I took this picture, and you can see it's 3 feet lower. Now there's 1,000 or 10,000 lakes in Minnesota, as you've all heard, but there's 100,000 lakes in Canada. That area is rebounding from the last ice age. The land is rising, and the water is draining into the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean faster than it's being refilled by snow and ice. So you can imagine how much of that water. This is still going on today. That land is slowly rising. When I say slowly, we're talking about centuries. And that's why it's hard for people to get a grasp. So the water level line of Lake McConnell 8,000 years ago is what you saw there. Compared to today's level is 3 feet of water from 100,000 or more lakes that have drained into our oceans and has caused a sea level rise. So where did all that water go? Out to the oceans because of the rebound of the weight of the glacier. You can imagine how heavy ice is. Just start shoveling snow during the next winter. And you can imagine 1.5 mile thick glacier. And again, that's not my recording. That's what almost every scientist says our last ice age had. Now, what's this? This is a picture of a mammoth skull that was taken off the North Sea and the English Channel. This was land. The English Channel during the last ice age was a tundra. There was no water in it. You could walk from France to England. In fact, England was attached to the main continent of Europe. So this is a mammoth skull that sort of proves a point. It was dug up in 250 feet or more of water in the North Sea. So you can see how much the oceans have risen. Our oceans were 300 to 400 feet shallower during the last ice age. Now that occurred during glacier melt. Now, a little science experiment that you might want to do is two things with a glass of water. One, fill it up with water and ice and make a recording of the level. Once the ice completely melts, you'll see that the level is the same. Because of the displacement of ice, displacement of water in ice, any ice that's in an ocean, like the Arctic Ocean, is not going to increase the level of the ocean. It's only ice that's on land that will increase the level of an ocean. Now, the second one relates back to what I was talking about CO2. If you didn't believe me, take a glass of water at just slightly cooled, put it down, and let it warm up to room temperature or even a little warmer. You will see bubbles develop on the side. This would show you that the ability of a liquid to hold a gas is dependent on temperature. As the ice melts or as a warm water starts warming up, it will show bubbles on the side, and it'd be indicative of CO2, oxygen, and nitrogen coming out of solution to reinforce the fact that our CO2 that has gone up in the last 40 years from 385 parts per million to 420 parts per million is mainly due to the ocean's increased temperature releasing CO2. Here's another interesting thing. What's this? This is the excavation site of the Twin Towers at the 9/11 dig, if you will. That is a British taxi ship of 1754. It was anchored in New York Harbor. That's 500 yards from the New York Harbor of today. Mankind has built out into every ocean and has displaced the water upward. This is a good proof. The same thing in San Francisco. The San Francisco Financial District was once part of San Francisco Bay. And almost every city in the United States has encroaching ocean. Baltimore has, Boston has, even around the Great Lakes, Cleveland, Chicago, Milwaukee, they've all gone and built out into the lake, displacing water that goes into the ocean. So there are other reasons why the ocean is rising. This one particular should be mindful. It was a British taxi ship that was found beneath the World Trade Center, rubble 500 yards inland from present-day New York Harbor. That's 20 feet of water, 500 yards. Was it a big addition to the ocean? No, but add all of the coastline cities that have done similar things, and it becomes significant. Now, what is this? This is one of 9 islands built out into the China Sea by the Communist Party of China. This used to be water. They built this out over an old coral reef, and you can see there's even a runway, so you can see the size of it. And look at the cargo ship at the bottom of this. Where did that water go? It went out into the ocean, more into the ocean, raising the level up slightly. And there's been 9 of them. So one of 9 military islands built in the South China Sea by China since 2013. Also, there is also natural events. This is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. This is a volcanic strip in the Atlantic, 12,000 miles long. That was the original separation of the combined continent. And you can see that the old continent of Pangaea, 200 million years ago, was spread apart, and the United States, South America, North America has been drifting west due to this. and Africa and Europe have been drifting east. It took a long time to do that, 200 million years to where we are today. But the Mid-Atlantic Ridge is a series of volcanic heated vents. Here's a picture of them. There's many of them. This vent area is 600 miles wide and 12,000 miles long. And all that particulate there, that's again, maybe a little bit of CO2, but what there really is soot again. That's particles. So that is adding to the floor of the ocean and therefore making the oceans shallower. And what is this? This is the Mississippi River flowing into the Gulf of Mexico. You can see from a space view all of the silt from Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, even up to Minnesota and Illinois and Iowa comes out, and over 100-mile area, you've got silt filling up the ocean. So the oceans are getting shallower, unrelated to CO2. Satellite view of the lower Mississippi Delta shows that the particulate runoff for many miles in all directions. The particulate runoff is on the order of 1,000 per second, 1,000 tons per second. Now, what is this? This is the famous meteor of 2013 in Russia called the Chelyabinsk meteor. What's all that white? That white is water vapor. That was a 66,000 pounds of asteroid meteor, mainly ice. Most meteors are ice, and asteroids are a combination of ice and, of course, solid rock. So water vapor trail from Chelyabinsk meteor in 2013, that added a whole lot of water that we really cannot account for. Now, I also want to get to a little bit of history. The Dust Bowl of 1930 to 1939. Had that occurred today, it would all be blamed on CO2. What the Dust Bowl did, from bad farming, a decades-long overheating, destroying crop, created droughts, crop loss, power outages, water scarcity, massive dust storms, starvations, and deaths. It was dramatic, but we've kind of written it off to history, and hopefully it doesn't come back anymore. But it was not due to CO2 either. Now, this is a picture from that time. Most people who were around at that time are not alive today. This looks like a Hollywood movie rendition of a dust storm in Egypt or someplace like that. This is in Oklahoma, United States. Massive dust storms during the Dust Bowl, the whole decade of the 1930s.